Thank you all for being here tonight. It would be great if you could add your name and the organization or city that you're with in the chat so others here in the meeting know who is in attendance. I also just want to congratulate those of you who are newly elected council members, whether you're present in the meeting tonight or viewing the webinar. We're looking forward to working with you in the future and happy that you're willing to serve your communities in that capacity. I appreciate that you're here to join us for tonight's session, Power Up, Sustainable Solutions for San Mateo County's Future. We understand that making our communities more sustainable isn't easy, but it is really important. And our goal for tonight is to share a few tools and resources that will help you and your city meet its sustainability goals. I'm Sarah Hubbard, Executive Director of Sustainable San Mateo County, or SSMC. We're a nonprofit organization that for more than 30 years has been dedicated to promoting the county's sustainability across the 3 E's, the economic, environmental, and social equity realms. Our programs are designed to inform and support city leaders and community members so they can adopt programs and policies that drive sustainability. People sometimes mistake SSMC for the county's Department of Sustainability, and while we collaborate with that department and receive a small portion of funding from the county, we are a separate nonprofit organization. Next slide, please. Speaking of funding, Sustainable San Mateo County makes its data, publications, and events available for free to the public and city staff and electeds in San Mateo County and beyond. To continue our work, we rely on funding from a variety of sources, including individual donors, sponsorships, which make up the majority of our funding, as well as the vital contributions of foundations, grantors, and cities. Nearly all of the cities in San Mateo County financially support our work, and we deeply value these contributions, so thank you. We'll be sending a letter to each of the cities in February to request your renewed or perhaps your new support. And this recent funding has enabled us to increase our programs and our impact, and we're looking to you to help us sustain this progress. So I can't overstate how important your renewed city funding is to SSMC and how grateful we are that so many cities prioritize sustainability, both through their staffing and their funding decisions. So I'll take just a minute to introduce you to SSMC's core programs. The annual indicators report presents a deep dive into a single sustainability topic with recommendations to address local challenges. Now, based on our surveys of city challenges and priorities, we focused the 2024 indicators report on equitable paths to EV charging infrastructure. Soon we'll be convening a steering committee to identify and remove obstacles to implementing the recommended solutions. Some of you may be familiar with our annual Sustainability Awards event, which recognizes the exceptional work of local sustainability champions and pioneers. These include individuals, businesses, green buildings, government and nonprofit organizations, and now a special youth award. This year's event will be on April 3rd, and I hope you and your teams are able to attend. It's a great networking opportunity and a lot of fun, and we'll be sending details in a follow-up email after this event. SSMC also hosts educational and informative webinars and roundtable discussions for local leaders in the general community, like tonight's. In fact, during tonight's webinar, we're going to provide details on these final 2 programs, the Ideas Bank and the Dashboard. The Ideas Bank is a compilation of successfully implemented solutions that help government and community leaders quickly advance their sustainability goals. And the Dashboard provides data across the broad range of topics linked to community sustainability. In addition to these programs, each summer we support a cohort of interns in research and policy projects. We collaborate with students and youth groups, and we engage volunteers in a variety of projects. So we are a busy team. Tonight's agenda includes a brief overview of where the county stands on notable sustainability performance metrics, and we'll show you how you can use the dashboard and ideas bank to evaluate and advance your community's sustainability. We'll also discuss your needs and challenges and identify ways SSMC can support your work. We'll tell you about a few upcoming programs of interest and wrap things up by answering any questions you might have. With me tonight are SSMC's Communications and Outreach Lead, Molly Carter, our Program Manager, Simona Vallone, and our Board Chair, Terry Nagel. Molly is up next with an overview of notable data for San Mateo County. Take it away, Molly.
Great. Welcome, everyone. It's so good to see you all, and we're excited to talk through sustainability with you here this evening. We wanted to start by sharing the landscape of new and upcoming regulations as it pertains to reducing greenhouse gas emissions and air pollution. There are a number of county and state level goals and regulations in place, including BACMED's rules banning nitrogen oxide from residential and commercial gas furnaces and water heaters, and SB 32 that requires CARB to ensure the state's greenhouse gas emissions are reduced to 40% below the 1990 levels by 2030. And while the Berkeley ruling was a setback for cities, many cities that had adopted their own REACH codes to limit gas from new construction, those REACH codes have influenced the new state level building standards that will go into effect in 2026. So with these regulations in mind, we'll now walk through where we stand on various emission and sustainability metrics, and then talk about the tools and solutions that we have for you to help you get to your goals faster. Before we do that, we have a quick poll for you. There we go. You should be able to see it now. And the question is that you can read is, what is currently San Mateo County's largest source of emissions? I'll give you just a couple moments. I know we have lots of knowledgeable people in the audience, so this will be fun.
It
okay,
looks like most people have answered, so I will show the results.
Okay. So it looks like 3/4 of you have chosen on-road transportation as our largest source, and buildings, 21% of you chose buildings as our #1 source. All right. So let's go back and see how you did. Overall, emissions were down 20% between 2005 and 2021 for the county overall. And 2021 is the latest year that we have data for. We do expect the 2023 data to be released by the end of this quarter. So overall down 20%, emissions are down 6% from the 1990 levels. So we do still have a ways to go to get to 40% below 1990 levels. Here you can see the emissions in 2005 versus 2021 from our 4 primary sources. So those are the ones you voted on. Building in blue, on-road transportation in red, solid waste in gray, and other in green. And other includes water, wastewater, and off-road transportation sectors. And emissions for this are measured in metric tons of CO2 equivalent. So clearly, our 2 biggest sources of emissions are from buildings and on-road transportation. On-road transportation, of course, includes passenger vehicles, commercial, and public transit vehicles, or public transit. We've seen a decrease in both of these sources, but more so from buildings, which leaves, and this did not, so nobody was tricked by this, this leaves on-road as our biggest source, which is what 3/4 of you had voted. On-road makes up 49% of our total emissions, and buildings just behind it at 42%. This data is from the County Department of Sustainability and RICAPS, which stands for Regionally Integrated Climate Action Planning Support. So they collect all of this data, and we have now incorporated this data into our dashboard so that you can see it for the county and by city. And I will now show you some of the detail from our dashboard. So let's start with building emissions. They are down 30% from 2005, and all cities have reduced building emissions. This chart shows the building emissions per capita for each city, and the red line shows the average for the county. It's measured in metric tons of CO2 equivalent per capita. The biggest driver of this decrease has been the introduction of Peninsula Clean Energy. Previously, our building emissions included all the electricity that used to be powered by non-renewables, and that accounted for 1/3 of all building emissions. But with the introduction of Peninsula Clean Energy, electricity is now 100% clean. That has caused building emissions to no longer be our #1 source of emissions, but our #2 source. Let's now turn to on-road emissions, which are down 10% for the county between 2005 and 2021. We are seeing progress. Almost all cities are down, and the county average for transportation emissions is down from 3.2 to 2.8 metric tons of CO2 equivalent per capita. Again, these on-road emissions include passenger vehicles, commercial transport, and public transport. And keep in mind, these numbers represent not just the emissions residents are creating, but the emissions that are impacting each person in the city. Cities that don't have much commercial transportation or public transport will have lower numbers. And then keep in mind, this is also a per capita number. So cities with very small populations and a lot of public transit or transportation passing through will have higher numbers. It's important to keep in mind these components are often out of the control of the city, can include high non-resident activity, and can have a very high impact on city population. Overall, this sector has not fallen as much as building emissions, and thus, as most of you knew, on-road emissions is now our #1 source of emissions. So let's now dig into the data a little deeper to understand the drivers of sustainability. Starting with transportation emissions, what drives much of the on-road emissions is vehicle miles traveled. So here you can see a view of daily vehicle miles traveled per commuter, which comes from our dashboard. For each of the core metrics we'll share tonight, you will see a mark on the right side. So on this slide, you see a green mark indicating strong progress. On other metrics, you will see a red mark indicating a lack of significant progress. So vehicle miles traveled was very flat, as you can see, from 2001 to 2019, and then started dropping with the COVID pandemic in 2022. The good news is that it has continued to drop, but we will see whether this continues as companies return to more or even all days in the office. By tracking this metric, this is also where you can see the impact of your efforts to create better alternatives to driving and moving people from solo driving to carpools, transit, bikes, and e-bikes. But we still have a lot of work to do here. This slide allows you to, this is data from the dashboard. It allows you to track more closely data showing the percent of commuters by mode of transport. So the top chart on the right there is percent drive alone commuters. The majority of commuters across the county, 58%, drive alone. There is a big range here from 47% for Atherton to 66% for East Palo Alto. The percentage of alone commuters has decreased, so that's great to see, mostly as a result from the shift to work from home. 10 years ago, almost every city had less than 10% of commuters working from home. Now that ranges from 13% in Daly City to 51% in Portola Valley. At the same time, the percentage of biking commuters has stayed the same overall. It's up in some cities, down in others. And transit commuters has actually dropped to 7% from about 9% 10 years ago. Next, let's look at what's driving building emissions. A big factor in this is how we heat our homes. In the dashboard, you can find the data on gas or electricity for primary heating by housing tenure. This visualization shows the percentage of owner-occupied housing units that utilize gas as their primary heating source. Most cities show a downward trend, though some have increased. The county average has fallen 2 percentage points from 77% for the previous 5-year period, which spanned 2014 to 2018. It's fallen now from that level of 77% to now 75% for the last 5 years, 2019 to 2023. So we have seen progress, but 75% is still a high overall average. Overall, we've seen a bigger shift away from gas for renter-occupied units, but we see mixed results across cities. Overall, the county average fell from 52% to 48% in the latest 5-year average. The reductions can be explained by a combination of newly built all-electric units and electrification of existing ones. We are eager to learn more about what is behind this change in the cities showing good progress and share these learnings with cities that are struggling with rental unit electrification. And finally, we share this next slide as part of our holistic focus on sustainability. And because non-affordable housing drives people out of their local areas and contributes to higher emissions. To monitor the progress on affordable housing, our dashboard reports the percentage of completed low-income and very low-income housing units relative to the units required to meet housing needs. So this chart shows the very low-income housing built from 2018 to 2023 and compares it to the RHNA, the Regional Housing Need Allocation. The data comes from data submitted by each jurisdiction through the Housing Element Annual Progress Report from the California Department of Housing and Community Development. On the dashboard, each city can see what they've achieved in terms of units built versus units required. We think it's important to look at not just the percentage of required units that were built, but the total number built. As you can see, different cities have very different requirements. Overall, the cities and county have built a lot of housing, but through 2023, for very low income, what has been built is just 1/5 of what is needed. So that's the very low income. Let's also look at the low income housing units. Overall, the cities and county have built a similar number of housing units, 1,044. But again, this does fall short of the need. It's 42% of the housing units required having been built. All right, I would now like to hand things off to Simona Vallone, SSMC's program manager, to share some additional metrics on sustainability and how you can use our dashboard in your work.
Great, thank you, Molly. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for making time to meet us today. I'll introduce SSMC Sustainability Dashboard and share a few use cases with you to show you its value and inspire ideas for its use. The dashboard has been designed to empower local governments and community members in the 20 cities, towns, and unincorporated areas in San Mateo County. It includes the latest and most relevant progress indicators and community insights. We all know that there is a lot of data out there, but often we lack the time and the resources to find, collect, and visualize it in a meaningful way. That's where our dashboard comes in. Our dashboard is a centralized place to find the basic metrics essential for assessing needs, planning solutions, writing grants, and tracking progress. Regular updates are built into the design of the dashboard, making it easy for us to maintain it and ensuring information stays relevant and up to date for you. We include data that spans across environmental, social, and economic dimensions in line with SSMC visions for sustainability. The dashboard aggregates over 90 metrics across 12 key topics, including energy, transportation, housing, climate action, and more. To ensure that the data we provide is both useful and reliable, we establish some key criteria for data selection. In general, the data must be available for all 20 cities and possibly for unincorporated places. It should be available for multiple years. Data must be comparable across time and jurisdictions, and it should be updated regularly by the releasing source. And the source must be reliable. Here are some of the main sources we get the data from. I'm sure many of you are familiar with the importance of context when interpreting data. Before we proceed, I want to emphasize the concept to ensure that our insights remain accurate, relevant, and actionable. On the dashboard, the metrics are displayed on a map, as you saw from Molly's presentation, making it easy to compare cities. But it is also important to remember that accurate comparison requires taking into account factors like economic conditions, demographic, and geography. For instance, if a city shows low bike usage, we need to consider whether factors like hilly terrain might make biking more difficult in that city. Without this context, we might misinterpret the data as a lack of interest or maybe lack of infrastructure, when in fact, the geography plays a key role in shaping transportation choices. I'd like to show you a short video that demonstrates how the dashboard works.
Community. In this video, we'll show you how it works. The dashboard includes 12 sustainability topics and over 90 metrics. To find the metric you need, use the drop-down menus to browse the available metrics. You can also search for a metric. Click into Select the Metric. On PC, press backspace. On a Mac, press the Delete key. Then, type a keyword for the metric. You can also look at data by city for unincorporated areas, or drill down by census tract. To use an interactive map, hover over any city on the map to see the name and the current value. Notice the corresponding trend line in the right chart, which turns black. For a comparative analysis, click on 2 or more cities on the map. This will highlight the cities on the chart for you to compare their trends over time. The dashboard includes from 6 to 16 years of historical data for each metric. Discover how your city is performing compared to the county average. Look for the yellow box for a detailed description of the metric and its sources. For further analysis or to share progress, you can download data as a CSV file or as an image. You can also click on Share a Link to copy a URL to the chart. Use the dashboard to know what's happening in your city and across the region. How many childcare programs are there in your city? How many families have income lower than 30% of the county median? Which city has adopted a REACH code ordinance? How many solar panel permits were issued? How many renter units use gas as their primary heating source? And much more. We hope you can use the dashboard to accelerate your sustainability efforts. If you have any questions or comments, drop us a note. We'd love to hear from you.
Great. Now that you're more familiar with the tool, let's dive into some real-world scenarios that will demonstrate the dashboard practical benefits and versatility in addressing a wide range of needs. To start, your city could use the dashboard to identify the gap between potential demand for and supply of public charging infrastructure in a neighborhood. The dashboard provides easy access to key metrics that can guide these efforts, including number of electric vehicles, public charging station, percentage of multifamily housing, and so on. Just a note, across the dashboard, the dark shades of blue always indicates higher numbers. So let's look at this. By using the dashboard, the cities could identify the percentage of multifamily housing units for a specific census tract. The census tract level view, which is shown here, can help to get a more granular understanding of the need. Next, the cities could also find the percentage of renter-occupied housing units for the same census tract, and then cross-reference these numbers with the number of public EV chargers present in the same area. This information could guide public infrastructure expansion strategies in high-density multifamily and renter-occupied areas, for example. Access to public charger is particularly crucial due to the limited availability of private chargers at home. By comparing these maps, the city could assess infrastructure distribution, identify areas where demand for public chargers likely surpasses supply. Next, another relevant use case involves city staff leveraging our dashboard to gain insight into how the community is adopting renewable energy and then fine-tuning their outreach and incentive programs accordingly. Some of the relevant metrics available through the dashboard include total number of batteries permit pending and completed, total numbers of housing occupied by its owners, household income, and more. By using the dashboard, the city staff could identify the total number of solar permit completed in the city. Then they could identify total number of housing that's occupied by the owner. And they could look at the income metrics to identify the neighborhoods that might benefit the most from additional incentive. In this case, we're looking at the household with income lower than 300% of the federal poverty level, which is a threshold often used for housing and nutrition assistance. All these metrics combined could help identify where financial incentive would be most needed to guarantee an equitable green transition. And lastly, many cities are aware of the importance of planting more trees for the many benefits that it brings to the community. City could utilize our dashboard to identify location where their effort will have the most significant impact on community health and well-being. Some of the relevant metrics available through the dashboard include percentage of tree coverage as at the census tract level, health-related data such as asthma rates. This, for example, could be helpful if a city wants to target community with a high asthma prevalence, considering that increased tree coverage can help improve air quality. And you can also find percentage of owner-occupied housing units to determine areas where residents might be more invested in long-term improvement and maintenance of planted trees. A notable example of city using our dashboard towards exactly this effort is the city of South San Francisco, sorry. The map on the left shows the area of the city with different percentage of trees. Again, this census tract level shown here will be helpful to get a more granular understanding of the need. The city could also inspect the household income data to identify lower income community that might lack access to trees. From comparing the two maps, one can see that the area with the less trees, in the map on the left, in the red box, is also home to a relatively larger, economically vulnerable population. By providing concrete evidence of need and potential impact, the data could help strategize funding allocation and continue effort in increasing equitable access to tree and healthier environments. And now it's my pleasure to introduce you to SSMC Board Chair Terry Nagel to tell you more about the Ideas Bank.
Hi there, everyone. Want to welcome you today. You know, when I was on the Burlingame City Council, I was surprised to find that there was no easy way to find out how our city was doing on sustainability issues. And now, as you've just seen, you can use the dashboard to discover metrics for more than 90 different issues. And you can also use our Ideas Bank. This was born out of the idea that it's easier to use someone else's idea that's been proven successful rather than inventing one yourself. So we have in this new resource, we have more than 80 different solutions that have proven successful in other communities. The solutions were written in-house. They are rigorously fact-checked. Most of them were written by our interns who, by the way, really get a charge out of learning how they can help sustainability. And we preview these solutions with a panel of experts before they are released. So now I would like to show you what the Ideas Bank looks like. You can try it out by clicking on the link in the chat. Some of you may have already used the Ideas Bank. And last year, we launched a brand new version. It's now an online interactive database with 87 solutions that were chosen to address the needs of local communities like yours. There are multiple ways to search. You can use the drop-down menu at the top to select different sustainability categories. Ideas are in 13 categories that pertain to a wide variety of issues. And when you choose one, the results pop up instantly below. You can also search by audience if you're targeting a government policy or something for the community or local businesses. And you can search by audience, or excuse me, you can search by solution type. So if you're looking specifically for a new law or regulation or a new technology, that's where you click. And we have a search bar, which works like a regular search bar. If you know precisely what you're looking for, just type in a few words and suggestions will pop up. There's a feature also where you can download several documents, the Download Selected Documents feature in the upper right-hand corner, and it allows you to explore them online, or you can also print them out. This is a preview of what one of the solutions looks like. We've created these solutions with local governments like you and staff in mind. They tell us where they've been implemented and their impact, and they explain obstacles and how to overcome them. We include lots of resources, and in most cases, we include contact information for at least one individual who is willing to answer your specific questions about the solution. I want to call your attention also to a paragraph near the top of the Ideas Bank. We welcome your ideas for new solutions. To suggest an idea, you can use the online form, just click there, or send an email to ideas@sustainablesanmateo.org. And finally, I want to share some of the most popular solutions in the Ideas Bank. The most popular one is a complete ban on gas leaf blowers, not just new ones. 4 cities in our county have already adopted this ban: Atherton, Burlingame, Hillsborough, and Menlo Park. Burlingame also restricts use of leaf blowers to specific days in different sections of the city so that people can have quiet most of the week. The urban tree canopy solution can help you enhance the green areas of your city. And as you saw, the dashboard can help you identify the areas of greatest need. The Youth Climate Ambassadors Program encourages high school students, hundreds of them, to do projects in local cities, and your city could benefit from this free help. The streetlight charging solution is a novel way to add electric vehicle chargers in areas with lots of multifamily buildings by putting them on lampposts. This solution has been widely adopted in Los Angeles, and there's now a pilot project underway in San Francisco. And finally, I want to call your attention to the induction cooking loaner program solution. This is an easy way to introduce people to gas-free cooking, which is cleaner, safer, and more efficient. And now I want to turn it back to you, Sarah.
Thank you so much, Terry. And thank you also to Molly and Simona for those great overviews of our core programs. In the past year, SSMC has conducted several surveys. Thank you if you've been one of the respondents. We've asked city leaders and staff to collect data on their biggest priorities related to sustainability. And the needs that come up more often include things like EV charging and electrification, micromobility, and a variety of climate challenges. Also mentioned are things like housing and permits, water conservation, and waste management. We are always interested in hearing from you about other priorities that you have, and I invite you to add a comment about them in the chat or reach out to us after the presentation so we can hear more. Here are some of the resources and solutions that we have for these top needs. Terry has mentioned a few as well. These are already available in the Ideas Bank, and we have additional ideas that will be added within the next few months. Also included are webinars, webinar recordings, all sorts of resources. So we will provide links to these in the follow-up email to this webinar. And because we like data so much, I'm going to ask you to respond to a survey now. Let me bring that up as a poll. A moment. Strangely, oh, now I see it. Hold on. All right, I've just launched poll 2. You should be able to see it now. It has just 3 questions, so we'd appreciate it if you'd take just a minute or two to answer them. Your responses are going to help SSMC improve its programs and even increase our funding, because our funding sources often want to know about how effective our products are or our programs are, and how well we're meeting the needs of our audience. Once again, I wish we had hold music for this kind of a minute while we're waiting for people to answer polls.
Oh, Rebecca says she can't see the poll.
So,
On mobile,
is,
I know we've had an issue. Zoom has an issue with.
yeah, let me see if I can put the QR code in the chat. It's a strange way to do it, but give me just a moment.
Otherwise, we could read the 3 questions and she could respond in the chat.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's not very anonymous.
She can do it just tell that's true. That's not anonymous.
Yes. Yeah, we could also send it after, and we can send it with the email as well, because it would be valuable feedback from anyone who views the video. All right, it looks like we have responses from the majority of folks, so I am going to end the poll. And I do thank you for participating in that. Thank you for coming here. I think we'll go back to Molly with some information about upcoming events.
Great. So before we get to our Q&A, I wanted to thank all of you for attending. We will be sending an email, like Sarah said, in the next couple of days with links to all the resources, as well as a recording of this webinar. And you are welcome, and we encourage you to share it with your colleagues. Be sure to register for the second webinar in this series, taking place on February 6th in 2 weeks. This webinar will provide cities and nonprofits with information on how to best leverage the new home upgrade services from Peninsula Clean Energy. These are services to make it cheaper and easier for your residents to switch out their gas appliances to electric ones. It includes full service and no-cost electrification to qualified homes and thousands of dollars off with incentives and pre-negotiated fixed pricing for non-qualified homes. So something for everyone. We'll have Alejandra Posada from Peninsula Clean Energy sharing how cities can take advantage of these services and answering your questions. And Rachel Lunder, the Sustainability Manager from Menlo Park, will join to share how Menlo Park is already partnering with Peninsula Clean Energy to use these services to help low-income residents in the Bellhaven neighborhood be able to electrify and save money. And there is a link to register for that webinar. It's in the chat. All right, we have a few more upcoming programs to share with you. In 2 weeks, we'll be holding our kickoff session for our Charge Forward campaign, where we will be working with a coalition to expand EV charging in multifamily homes. We'll be sure to share the results and plans coming out of that session with all of you. We also have our annual award celebration coming up on April 3rd, our 26th annual. And in a little less than 2 weeks, on February 4th, we will be announcing our winners and opening registration where you can purchase tickets to the event or even a table. We also have some excellent sponsorship opportunities that you can find on our site, and we will share those. There's a link to those in the chat, and we'll put those in the follow-up email. And coming this spring, later this spring, we will be hosting our 3rd annual webinar with youth to educate and inspire them to be active in the setting of local climate policy. This has been a very popular event the last 2 years. And so if you're available, I welcome you to join to really engage with these youth. And finally, we encourage you to sign up for our sustainability newsletter to stay up to date on all of our events, as well as events in the community. We send an email twice a month with relevant news, insights, and events, and you can use the link in the chat if you are not already subscribed to that newsletter. And with that, I'll hand it back over to Sarah.
Thank you so much, Molly. We hope to see all of you at these upcoming events. Looks like we have 10 to 15 minutes to answer any questions that you have about the tools and resources that we presented tonight, and to learn more about any additional needs and priorities that you have. So feel free to either raise your virtual hand or add questions in the chat, and we will answer them as they come up. Nancy, I see you have your hand raised.
Yeah, my question is, do you consult to cities? And as an example, I'm thinking of developing a dashboard, which happens to be a recommendation for our climate action and adaptation task force, that we're recommending the creation of, well, a position and also a commission. And one of the duties would be to create and monitor a dashboard. So.
Interesting. That's great to hear. We have met with cities individually. We've invited both staff members and city council members to meet with us to discuss the data that we have in our dashboard. We've also kind of tossed around the idea of having cities use our dashboard as the source of their information rather than recreating the wheel. So I welcome having you reach out to me and seeing if we can arrange some time to talk with your group and see how we might be able to help with that. And I'm ecstatic to hear that Pacifica is interested in doing more. So thank you. Let's see. I see Rebecca put a note in the chat saying that they need to create a climate action plan for our town. What resources are available for us to do that? Rebecca, remind me what town you are from, just as a helpful pointer. So the County Department of Sustainability is the department or organization that manages the climate action plans for the cities and the RICAPS program that we referenced earlier. There are a number of tools that they have available to develop a climate action plan. There's a template that you can use. Terry, would you say the person to reach out to is
It's Ivana Andrade. Yeah. We can,
okay.
I can get her email in here real quick. Okay. Yeah, they have regular meetings to encourage people to work on their climate action plans, update them and so forth, and share ideas. In fact, some of the people in this chat, I think, attend those meetings if anybody wants to comment on that.
I can comment. I have been as a task force member here in town. They are a great resource, and Ivana is the best contact. And the next meeting happens to be in person on March 4th, although they haven't said where, but most of them are virtual, but a couple times a year it's in person. But it's a great resource.
Yeah, that is a great team.
And you know,
Becky,
oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, Becky put in the chat that yes, their meetings are excellent.
Yeah, I was going to mention too, I remember another city was asking if they could use our data on their website, embedded in their website, and, you know, have it customized to the particular city. And so that is something we might really want to look into to help not have to do it yourself, you know.
Yeah. Are there any other questions or challenges that you're grappling with that we might be able to help with?
Great. Well, if anybody wants a personal tour of our tools, I know sometimes it's hard to figure them out the first time. We do have the video that we can share with you that was shown during this meeting, but also I'd be happy to walk you through the tools individually so that you get familiar with them. They're really easy to use once you know how to do it.
Yeah. Terry, do you want to include your email in the chat?
Sure.
And she has included my email in the chat as well. It's shubbard@sustainablesanmateo.org. I'd be also happy to connect you with any resources or provide any support that you need. All right, I don't see any other hands raised and no other questions in the chat. So I want to thank you all again for being here. Please feel free to share the recording of the webinar with staff members or other council members or others in the community that would benefit from learning more about SSMC's programs. And know that we are all dedicated to advancing sustainability efforts throughout the county. Thank you for being here tonight.